Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what is up? What is good? The king, the king of lightning here today, bringing you guys and gals Hunter x Hunter. The glory that is Togashi Yoshihiro's Hunter x Hunter. Chapter 365 review. Now that being said, folks, no time wasted. Let us dive headfirst into the chapter with, as usual, the pacing, the story, and finally, the character portion of the chapter. So, first and foremost, the pacing of the chapter. For this, there are three parts to the pacing. Number one, Kurapika had the intention of talking to the first prince camp, however, winds up talking to the third prince, Zhang's camp, because of a certain maid, who we'll get to soon. And then after talking to the third prince's camp, he then talks to the fifth prince's camp, but he talks not to her directly, but talks to the second lieutenant of her bodyguards, Mayor. Then in part two of the pacing is Kurapika talking to Shimano about why she didn't have the call placed for the first prince and why it was the third prince, Zhang. This being one of the core parts of the chapter. And then we have part three of the chapter, which is Bill is going to stay in the 14th Princess Wobble area with the royal bodyguard of the first prince, Benjamin. So Billy boy, Bill Coon may... But Bill is by himself with the royal bodyguard of the first prince in the 14th prince's area, while Kurapika and Queen Oito go off and talk to Zhang, the third prince. And that is it when it comes from a pacing / chapter structure. Very simple, straightforward. So when it comes to pacing overall, relatively simple, okay. Now when it comes to the story progression for this chapter, nothing for the overall series of Hunter x Hunter, like in the previous chapter, but we do have some stuff here for the arc itself. So number one, when it comes to the third prince and the fifth prince, according to Kurapika, they don't have any hunters among their bodyguard units, which is the reason why they're calling Kurapika in the first place. If they did have hunters, then there'd be no reason to talk to Kurapika, but they need that intel on Nen and Nen Beast. Number two, because of Shimano's actions, Kurapika and company have lost any chance of having a truce with Camp Benjamin. Granted, Shimano later explained it's not possible. If there was some chance, they lost it. Because when he tries to get in contact with Camp Benjamin after talking to Zhang, that line is disconnected. So whether or not that comes to bite them in the ass later on, we're not too sure. But if we take Shimano's words at face value, it was for the best. That being said, moving on to number three, when it comes to the story, after Kurapika talks to Mayor, the second lieutenant of the fifth prince Tube, Mayor says that he'll call back in 1 hour time. And if he doesn't get a response by then, any hope for a truce between their camp, the fifth prince's camp, and Camp Wobble will be thrown out the window. And Mayor makes it very clear that the circumstances of Camp Wobble are irrelevant when it comes to his camp. However, Kurapika does state that he has to deal with a first prince's bodyguard. But after that hour, if they get no response, Mayor and the fifth prince camp, they're off the table. They're gone. Number four, Shimano is actually very knowledgeable. There was one thing that Kurapika and company were lacking, and that was info on, I guess, the whole Kakin system. They were not in the loop. And also, that was one of the major things that Benjamin was going to use against the hunters. That's what Balsamico Might, his actual last name is Might, so we'll call him Might. So Might talks about how they can use their info on the Kakin system to their advantage against the hunters. However, Shimano, this maid, appears to have filled that gap somewhat when it comes to Camp Wobble. So that is part four for the story. Part 5 for the story, Bill is going to stay in the room while Queen Oito and Kurapika, they go over to talk to Zhang. Part 6 for the story is because Kurapika gave Queen Oito the stealth dolphin, which is a Nen creature. This has given Oito the ability to see Nen things. And as a result, Queen Oito, when they do go to Zhang's room and they talk to Zhang personally, she sees the Nen beast of Zhang, this wheel thing. And it's like, I think, staring at her. And she's trying not to freak out. And Kurapika, he talks in a way where he's talking to Zhang, but also to her as well, to try and calm her down. Part 7 for story, so I was wrong. Not 6 parts, but 7 parts of the story. Part 7 is Kurapika is now going to tell Zhang some very important information when it comes to Nen and Nen Beast that will affect the Succession War itself. Next to Zhang is one of the first prince's bodyguards, as well as a bodyguard that works for, or that was given to to Zhang by the second queen, who I believe is the queen for Camila, the second prince, and Tube, the fifth prince. I believe so. I could be wrong about that. This info that Kurapika is going to tell Zhang, because these two bodyguards are there, this info will then be brought over to Benjamin and the second queen. And from the second queen, Tube and Camila as well. That's my guess. However, Kurapika is already going to talk to the second lieutenant of Tube's bodyguards, Mayor, in an hour's time. That may be thrown out the window anyway, because they'll get the info from the bodyguard who was placed there by the second queen, or that info won't reach Tube until a later point in time, where it'll first reach Tube's ears through this Mayor dude when he talks to Kurapika in an hour's time. Who knows? So it could mean a lot of different things in the future. Not too sure exactly what it'll lead to, but it could lead to several things. And that is it when it comes to the story progression of this chapter. Again, it's had 7 parts to it, not 6. It is clearly the meat of the chapter, though unfortunately has no overall story component to it. But the situation involving the princess is clearly advancing, and it is very obvious that Kurapika is one of the main people that is advancing this succession war. When it comes to story, overall, I thought it was good plus. Now, when it comes to the character component of this chapter, we must thank Shimano for this one, because Shimano gets stuff for herself. She gives stuff for Benjamin, for Zhang, and for Tube, the fifth prince. Even though when you first find out that Kurapika's talking to Zhang instead of Benjamin, and he looks at Shimano, and you're like, this sleazy bitch right here, this motherfucker right here just betrayed Kurapika. She went against his orders, giving him Zhang instead of Benjamin. It looks like it was all done for the benefit of their camp and for their survival, because she knows things that Kurapika does not know. Kurapika is not an insider. He can only go so far when it comes to what he knows and what he doesn't know. But she is someone who is someone on the inside. Okay. All right. So at first, you're kind of like, yo, this bitch, middle fingers, it's time to devastate her, get her out of here. But no. Actually, you know what? She is very useful. Keep her on board. So, listen, if it was me, after I was talking to Zhang, I would have drop kicked her, been like, bitch, like, yo, but no. You see, I would have died, though. Like, at some point, an beast would have killed my ass. Kurapika's gonna live. He's smarter than me. Shit. So, let's goddamn talk about the character. First and foremost, Benjamin. And according to her, the negotiations between their camp and Benjamin's camp have already broken down since they killed one of Benjamin's bodyguards. Even if they plead for their lives, no mercy will be spared. The one calling on the phone was probably Major Sergeant or Staff Sergeant, whatever his rank is, Might. Balsamico Might. He's calling. And the main reason why he's calling is not to form a truce with Camp Wobble, but to basically give Camp Wobble the options on how they will die. Apparently, that's how Benjamin rolls. In order to show respect for their enemy who remain loyal to their client, they will let them choose how they die. Like, if what she says is true, right? So if Kurapika had his way, he would have gotten the call from not Benjamin, but from Mike. And he would have said, okay, so truce? Mike would have been like, nah. You see, Prince Benjamin is not about that life. So he wants to know how you want to die. Biggest waste of a call ever. And so if he hangs up and then he calls, let's say, Zhang could have hanged up on him because he had contacted Benjamin first. Now, normally that's how you do it. You contact the first prince first, and then like the third prince, and then like the fifth prince. You go in the order of the princes. However, because Shimano knows and Kurapika does not know, that probably had just saved Camp Wobble's asses from whatever Benjamin has going on. And on top of that, forming a truce with Zhang, which is important. Potentially one with Tube as well. Now, number 2 for character ties to what I said the story previously, where Shimano appears to be very knowledgeable when it comes to the princes and their mannerisms and how they behave and how they act. So she is going to be an asset when it comes to Camp Wobble because she knows things about the princes that Kurapika clearly does not know. Now, number 3 for characterization is going to be Zhang. Now, according to Shimano, she says that Zhang is kind yet cruel. He is someone that would like to avoid bloodshed. He doesn't want to have to fight. He would rather talk things out and negotiate. However, if he needs to, he will have no problem being cruel. He will not hesitate to take out people. If he needs to take out a group of school kids, he has no problem doing that. So Zhang is cruel, merciless, yet he'd rather not be. So when it comes to the top 5 princes, he seems to be among the more reasonable, because Tube is also fairly reasonable, which we'll get to soon. Benjamin, yeah, nah. He has his pluses, but there are more like negatives than there are pluses to Benjamin. Camila, she's lost. The 4th prince, forget about lost. This guy, he is so deep into the abyss. This man is so far gone, he's beyond hope. And then finally, we have characterization for the 5th prince of Kaken, Tube something. And according to Shimano, Tube something is very critical of the current monarchy of the country of Kaken. Not only that, but the main reason why she wants to eliminate the older princess and get them away from the throne is so she can discuss, so she can parlay with the king about pardoning the other princes, the younger princes, 6 and down. Tube seems like she's a very, okay, well, I can't say nice, but she's willing to give pardons to the younger princes. She doesn't want them killed. Benjamin, he was like, yeah, kill them all, kill them all. Camila, everyone should die for the sake of me. Camila should be king. The 4th prince, I mean, who the, oh shit. I can only imagine. Zhang, we haven't gotten what his shtick is yet. But Tube, according to Shimano, Tube wants to eliminate these higher princes to influence the current king, because ultimately she'll be king. Because in their mind, the top 5 princes are the only ones that have influence to actually be king. Though we do see that, I think, again, the 7th prince, he has his own intentions as well to become king. The other princes that are much younger, they don't really care that much, except for like one, who happens to be targeting Tube as we speak. If Tube has it her way, she will talk to the king about gaining pardons for the other princes that are ranked lower than her, therefore sparing their lives. Potentially. Granted, she still wants to kill the other freaking like 4 or 3, but to then spare everybody else is kind of like, yeah, it's not a bad move. That is it when it comes to character. Overall, when it comes to characterization for this chapter, no character development for this chapter. When it comes to characterization, it did have some good points for the major princes thus far. I will give it a rating of a good. And when it comes to chapter rating, I would say it is a good chapter. So that being said, guys and gals, I am done. What I just said, false. Completely wrong. Dead decimated. Because we have an entirely new chapter to cover in the same video. Chapter 366 of Hunter x Hunter. Now, different shirt, different day. It is what it is. And when I was editing the previous review, this chapter came out. So here we are today doing chapter 366 of Hunter x Hunter. Now, the thing here is this chapter is a behemoth of a chapter. When it comes to the pacing and the pacing alone, because I can't afford to dilly-dally with this chapter because there's so much. When it comes to the pacing and the pacing alone, there are 15 parts to this chapter. We cover practically all of the princes in like one chapter. And then at the end of all of it, we have Kurolo. It's like, what? This man, Togashi, was everywhere in this chapter. From a pacing standpoint, 15 parts. And that's not the most. That's not the most. Okay, so, God. So, without further ado, folks, chapter 366 of Hunter x Hunter. First part of the pacing / chapter structure is that we see what's going on with Biscuit, Kruger, and Hanzo as they're with the 13th prince, Mariam. He is the second youngest of the princes. Number 2 for pacing is that we shift over to the 12th prince, Momose, and she's sleeping. And we have the bodyguards that are, I guess, around her area, around her quarters. And they're pretty much plotting her assassination. That's number 2. Number 3, we shift over to the 11th prince, Fugetsu, and she is crying over a picture of him and the 10th prince, Kacho, and she's in her room, and the whole thing is hitting her pretty hard. And on top of that, we have 2 bodyguards from the 6th queen, Seiko, who is the mother of both Kacho and Fugetsu, and these bodyguards are talking to themselves about how to protect her. Part 4 is we go to the 10th prince, Kacho, and Melody, because Melody is one of the bodyguards to Kacho, and things aren't looking too good for Kacho at the moment. That's her own fault, which we'll get to soon. Part 5, which is very intriguing, we shift over to Hulkenberg, the 9th prince, and apparently he was in bed, he awakes, and when he wakes up and he goes to the main hall of his quarters, I suppose, we see all these bodyguards where he is. So the last time we saw Hulkenberg, his bodyguards were asleep or they were killed, something of the sort. But now everything seems to be a-okay with Hulkenberg and his camp, though something is a bit off, and we'll get to that soon. Part 6 for pacing is that we go over to the 8th Prince Sail, and we get to see the 5th Queen, his mother, Swinko. So we shift over to Sail and her for a page, like literally a page. Then part 7 for the pacing, 7, like normally, like I'll be, no, we're not even halfway done yet. Part 7 for the pacing is we shift over to the 7th Prince. I'm gonna call him like Lazarus or like Lazarus. Let's call him Lazarus, right? Lazarus and Basho and him, they're talking about something, which is actually fairly intriguing. It gives us some character stuff, but again, we'll get to that soon for the character part of this chapter review. Part 8 for the pacing is that we shift over to the 6th Prince Tyson and Izunavi, and it pertains to a certain book that the 6th Prince was reading. Part 9 for the pacing is that we shift over to Tube something, the 5th Prince of Kaken, and we see what's going on at her camp. Part 10 for the pacing is scary, because we have the 4th Prince and Theta. The 4th Prince is learning Nen, and it's revealed that, like, whoa, okay. Again, we'll get to that soon. We have to cover the pacing first. Part 11 for pacing. 11, dog. Part 11 for pacing is that we shift over to Zhang, the 3rd Prince, and Kurapika and company as they're about to leave. Part 12 for pacing is that we shift over to the 2nd Prince, Camila, and she's having dinner with her mother, the 2nd Queen of Kaken, Duzal. Part 13 for pacing is that we shift over to our good old friend Benny Boy, 1st Prince Benjamin, and Might, and they talk about various things concerning Camp Wobble. Part 14 for the pacing is Kurapika and company. They have returned back to Wobble's room with some new bodyguards and things gone from there. And then part 15 of the pacing, finally, 555. Part 15 of the pacing is we shift over to Kurolo, of all people. And that's where chapter ends. From a pacing standpoint, we cover pretty much all the princes, quite literally, and then some. 15 parts to this chapter from a pacing standpoint. That is quite a bit, to say the least. Honestly, way too much, I would say. Prince to prince to prince to prince to queen to prince. It's like, dude. Togashi, 15 parts. Yeah, that from a pacing standpoint, there's no way it's good. I thought it was too much. It was overwhelming. I mean, I got through it just fine, but it's like, really? Like 15 parts? Like literally a page. One page was its own individual segment of the chapter, its own unique part of the chapter. And then on top of that, when you consider how it's a weekly series, well, when he comes out, it's a weekly series, and it only has, like, what, 18 or 17 pages, that's just too much, dog. That's just way too much. If you were to go to a monthly series right now, how many parts or pacing do you think would be there? Maybe, like, 7 or 8, like, at most? And those are, like, 42-some-odd page chapters. 17-page chapter. This dude fit in 15 parts. Nah, man, I'm just... Alright, man. So, let me go on to the character part before I go on to the story part. Because the story part... Listen, I told you that there was a part that had more parts than 15, than the pacing. And that's the story. The story... Just shit, goddamn Togashi, what are you doing to me, man? Let's save the meat for last. So let's talk about the character. And for the character segment of this chapter review, we have 7 parts. Number 1, the dragon-like Nen beast that we saw previously when Kurapika and Camp Wobble were being bombarded by all these Nen creatures. Well, there was a dragon-like Nen beast, and that dragon-like Nen beast apparently belongs to Mariam, the 13th Prince of Kaken. Number 2 for character. That's what I said previously when it comes to the pacing. It looks like Fugetsu is really being hit hard by this whole succession war and the thought of killing her fellow princes, and then how this seems to have really dampened the relationship between herself and Kacho, her sister. Her direct sister. And to be quite honest, she is fairly normal for thinking that way. She really is. But nonetheless, she's in her room and she's crying, thinking of the past and the memories she had with her sister and how that all may come to an end. That is a sprinkle of character for her character. Number 3 is fascinating. Kacho. Apparently, according to Melody, she's not being true to herself. Melody can hear people's heartbeats. Melody can tell that Kacho's not being true to herself. Her heart tells a different tale than her actions. And the reasons why, I'm not too sure, but I can speculate. My guess here is that Kacho, this whole thing about being a bitch may actually be a facade. In reality, she wants to protect her sister, Fugetsu, because she's the older sister and she feels obligated to do so. Brotherly, sisterly love type of thing. And as a result, she is trying to ostracize the the bodyguard, so they target her first as opposed to target Fugetsu, because Fugetsu and Kacho are quote-unquote worlds apart when it comes to their personalities and how they operate. However, that may not be the truth. So potentially, not too sure if that's the case. If it is the case, that would be pretty impressive on Kacho's part from a character standpoint, absolutely. So from a character standpoint, we can't say it's 100%. But Melody, again, because she can hear heartbeats, she knows who's lying and who's being truthful and that kind of stuff. She can tell these things. And as a result, she knows that Kacho isn't being true to herself. Okay, so let's see where Togashi goes with that one. Now, part 4 for character. because I got Basho. Okay. Okay, so this had me rolling when I read the chapter. Basho apparently is a fan of certain medicinal herbs when it comes to smoking them, and apparently he's such a fan of them that he actually has a license, a patent, on his own unique recipe. Alright, okay, Basho, my man. And apparently the recipe is actually very good. She helps out heavy smokers. I'm assuming it helps him with like lung conditions and that kind of stuff. That's my guess here. Maybe like the addiction itself, not too sure. But his own recipe is apparently very good for the body. And he himself, he's done a lot of stuff, quote unquote, a lot of stuff. But he always returns to his own unique recipe. Because I got high. Because I got high. Like, dude, like, him and Lazarus are yeah, like, there's something clearly there. So that's Basho's character, part 4. Then part 5 is Lazarus. Now, Lazarus, upon hearing how this drug can be used to help heavy smokers, he explains how he has his friends himself that have suffered when it comes to using certain drugs. Because if you go too far, well, you go down into the abyss and it's hard to come back up. However, after hearing about Basho's recipe and how it helps others, Lazarus wants like a report written on this drug and see if he can get that pushed out into the market of Kaken. But he does have to face a certain wall, Benjamin, because apparently the military complex of Kaken, they also oversee the drug stuff in Kaken as well, which is kind of crazy. Nonetheless, Lazarus, he does want to help those that have been afflicted, that have their lives stunted because of drugs. So Basho and Lazarus, they apparently are a good team. If Basho sees Lazarus as a good guy, then he's going to be even more so invested for him not to die. Now, whereas part 4 and part 6 for the character were on the lighter side, on the good side, part 6 of character, not so much. Apparently, the 4th Prince of Kaken, however you say his name, apparently he is a master at learning Nen. Theta, his main bodyguard who knows Nen, she is teaching him the Nen basics and he's doing some drills. And he gets the drill like instantly. Not only that, but he's able to go even beyond. Make a aura ball between your palm. He got it right then and there. But also he shifted the aura to his left fist, his right fist, and then like index finger. Like, this is the last guy you want among all the princes learning Nen and mastering Nen. So Theta looks like she's gonna have an even harder time in trying to stall his Nen growth because the guy is a genius at learning Nen. Like, the drill that she did, like, give it a few days or a few weeks. No, I got it done. If this guy lives too long, he is going to be a massive threat to everybody. He's a genius. He's the prodigal child of Satan. Dude, stop. No. This guy has to go out quick. Finally, part 7 for the character section of this chapter is characterization for the second queen. According to a bodyguard affiliated with the second queen, his name is Salka, and it's later on confirmed by the queen herself when we see her talking to her daughter, Camilla, her oldest daughter. Apparently, she is a very demure woman, meaning that she's very modest, very humble, very polite, reserved. That character trait of her we see not only when she's talking to, again, her daughter, but also it is described to us by a bodyguard that is affiliated with her. So no character development here, just merely characterization on a few characters. The ones that did stand out to me were definitely Kacho, because Kacho is not confirmed yet, but Melody is alluding to something potentially being there with Kacho and Fugetsu in the future. And then you have the Luzers and the Basho stuff, which you just can't help but like. But the biggest thing potentially is the fourth prince being able to learn Nen that quickly. Because we all know that the fourth prince is going to be just a whirlwind of death. When this guy starts revving up the engine and starts to go in motion, yeah, people are going to die in waves. I don't doubt it. So, that being said, that is it for character. Overall, I'd say it was a solid okay plus to good. Oh, finally, the meat of the chapter, the story progression of this chapter. Now, this has 18 parts to it. 18! Yeah! Woo! Oh my god! 18 parts in one chapter, Togashi. What are you doing? Slowly losing my mind over here. So, without further ado, let's dive into these 18 parts for one chapter for story progression. And mind you, the vast majority of it just pertains to in-arc stuff. So, first and foremost, number 1. It has been a 4-hour journey so far. 4 hours have passed since the launch of the Black Whale Mark 1. I believe it's like 3 weeks. Like 3 weeks to get to like the outskirts where they can refuel. And then another 5 weeks till they get to the Dark Continent. Or the fake Dark Continent, the new continent. All this craziness. All the plotting and scheming, the Nen bees, deaths, 4 hours. Yeah. Number 2, the dragon-like Nen beast of Mariam. Not only has it noticed that Hanzo and Biscuit can see it, but also, apparently, it's getting bigger and bigger. Number 3 for story. Number 3, several bodyguards that are near Prince Momose while she's asleep. The ones that are plotting. They are affiliated with the first Prince Benjamin, the second Queen Duzal, the third Queen Tang Zhao Li, and the fourth Queen Katrano. They're plotting her assassination. They're trying to do so in a way where they themselves won't get caught and get executed, but at the same time leave some type of marker or some type of note that it was in fact them, so they would get the credit and their rank would rise. That's an important thing that I don't believe was discussed previously. If an assassination of a prince is successful, the bodyguards who do enact that assassination of said prince are going to leave some type of marker, sign, or something. So only people that are affiliated with that said camp would understand what that means. Then that bodyguard will get the credit. And as a result, they get, let's say, a pay raise or their status is elevated. That has not been mentioned at all. I believe so, until this chapter. So there is also a personal incentive when it comes to assassinating these princes from the bodyguard's perspective. Now, I also want to point out that the Nen Beast of Momose seems to be aware of this, like it's watching. So that Nen Beast is gonna take some action. It's gonna do something. What exactly, not too sure, but there's no way it's gonna let Momose, because it looks like there are at least like 4 or 5 people near Momose at this point in time that are plotting to kill Momose. That Nen Beast is gonna be quite busy. Part 4 for the story is Kacho, and essentially speaking, Kacho, she's acting like an absolute demon to her bodyguards and to her servants. But like we discussed before, that could all be a facade. Her sister won't stay alive if she is also alive. Something of that sort. But again, when it comes to that, we're not too sure. Until that point in time where Melody is confirmed correct, let's take it at face value, and Kacho is just an extreme bitch. To the point where the servants and the bodyguards want her to die. So it looks like nobody's on her side with the exception of maybe Melody. Because when push comes to shove, the only person to really help her out is going to be Melody. Number 5 for story progression, Hulkenberg. Now what's going on here, I don't know. But it looks like Hulkenberg, what we saw previously with him, and how his bodyguards were like knocked out or killed, well, it looks like that was all a dream. And he's thinking, wait, hold on, so it was all just a dream. When he looks at this side of his hand right here, and he sees either a feather that's like stuck on his hand, or it's a tattoo of a feather. I think it's a tattoo. Like somehow, some way, someone marked him with a feather-like tattoo. Who exactly, I'm not too sure. He now knows that something did happen because there's now a mark on this side of his hand right here. So what? Who? Don't know. Probably someone with the full-blown intent of killing him. That's my guess. And then on top of that, it can't be a Nen Beast from the other princes. Why? Because there is that contract, that law that the ceremony jar had in place between the Nen Beasts, where the Nen Beasts themselves cannot attack another Nen Beast or the host that the Nemesis is protecting. And Hulkenberg is a host. But Hulkenberg, he's not in the clear, not by a long shot. So Hulkenberg is number 5. Number 6 for the story is the 8th Prince, Sail. He's in his room on his bed chilling. He has pizza boxes all around him, all these girls around him as well. That are just sleeping on his bed. And I'm thinking like, ha ha ha. Bruh, welcome to the good life. Yo! Welcome to the good life. Bro, like, you get my point, all right? I'm not against his lifestyle, but Swinko, his mom, the 5th Queen of Kaken, she lets it be known that he is her only child. And so he has to get his shit together. It's only been 4 hours. That's the thing, though. Like, even though it's a life and death war between these princes, and so many things have occurred already, it's only been 4 hours since the launch of the Black Whale Mark 1. 4 hours. But he states that he has a plan, and at the next banquet, he's going to quote-unquote change the world. I mean, that's pretty big words from the guy that just has women and pizza boxes all around him. But you know what? I'm not gonna flat out underestimate him. Like, straight up, Sail could turn out to be like Batman. Straight up, having like plan on top of plan, on top of plan, on top of failsafe, on top of failsafe. Just a utility belt of shit at his disposal. Who knows? The man could be that effective. I doubt it. I really do. But I'm not gonna underestimate Sail. Now, number 7, like I said before, Basho and Lazarus, they appear to be becoming fast friends, which may conflict with other bodyguards later on as this arc continues. Lazarus and Basho, they do share similarities when it comes to their taste in certain products. And on top of that, they also want to help out others who have been afflicted when it comes to overusing drugs and that kind of stuff. Number 8 is Mayor from the 5th Prince's camp is now gonna go to room 1014 to talk to Camp Wobble. Number 9 for story is after Zhang and Kirby could talk, most of that dialogue was clearly done off screen, which is fine by me, honestly, considering 100% dialogue. But after that dialogue, Zhang, he is now sending over 2 of his own personal bodyguards with Camp Wobble to help protect them. Because now it looks like the truce between Camp Wobble and Camp Zhang has been solidified. Number 10 is, along with those bodyguards, those 2 of Zhang's personal bodyguards, we have a man named Salka, and he is an affiliate of the 2nd Queen Duzal, one of her bodyguards, and on orders of the 1st Queen Uma, through one of the bodyguards of 1st Prince Benjamin, he is now going to be going over to Camp Wobble's team. So Kirby and company, they now have 3 bodyguards that they got from the exchange as opposed to just the 2. However, he's not a personal bodyguard of Zhang. He's there mainly to gather intel on the 2nd Queen and 1st Queen's behalf, mainly the 2nd Queen, by orders from the 1st Queen. Now, part of the Lenford story is going to be something that involves the bodyguards of the 1st Queen Uma and the 2nd Queen Duzal, where essentially these 2 bodyguard groups are the ones that are supposed to write out the surveillance reports on the younger princes. And it's also the reason why the younger princes will always have 1 bodyguard from the 2nd Queen Duzal and 1 bodyguard from the 1st Queen / the 1st Prince Benjamin from their camp. As a result of that, there's sometimes some conflict between the bodyguards of the 1st Queen Uma, who also have ties to the 1st Prince Benjamin, as well as the bodyguards of the 2nd Queen Duzal. But most of those issues are put to the side, and mainly they do get along, and the only reason why they get along is because of the 2nd Queen Duzal. The 2nd Queen has ordered that her bodyguards take a more supportive role. That is number 11, but that ties strongly to number 12. For number 12, there is this guy who is an affiliate of the 2nd Queen Duzal, and his name is Mandam. And then Mandam is the captain of the guard. So as the captain of the guards, he's affiliate of the 2nd Queen, but because he's captain of the guards as a whole, he then coordinates the information between the bodyguards of the 2nd Queen Duzal and the 1st Queen Uma. Essentially, he's the coordinator between these 2 groups. Also another reason why they can get along despite how they're in different camps. And this whole succession war, each of these camps clearly has their own initiative, obviously. So at some point, their individual interests will play a role, but it hasn't gotten to that point just yet. Right now, they're focusing mainly on the younger princes. Now, part 13 for the pacing. We're on 13. 13 Togashi. When it comes to part 13 of the story progression, Camilla, the second prince of Kaken, she is eating with her mom, the second queen of Kaken, Queen Duzal, and she basically has said to her mom right there up front, we're targeting Benjamin first. And after we target Benjamin, after we take him out, we're going to target the 9th prince, Hulkenberg. Why? Hulkenberg dipped, or he should be dipping. He doesn't want any part in this war at all. And yet Camilla wants to target him second. Because Hulkenberg does have influence, he does. But he himself only came to this ship in the first place to save face for his father. So... No. I mean, it's Camilla. Camilla's sick and twisted anyway. But Camilla's targeting Benjamin first. So good luck with that. She may not even get the chance to target Hulkenberg because it's Benny Boy. The man has a system in place that is deep and well organized and well managed. There's no way Camilla's gonna kill Benny Boy. But then on top of that, she wants the second queen, Duzal, to take care of Hulkenberg. And what makes matters even worse is that Hulkenberg's mom is the second queen. So she wants to, after Benny Boy, she wants to kill her own direct brother, Hulkenberg. Like, Camilla just doesn't stop. You know what, now I think about it, I forgot about this too. I forgot about this as well. Lazarus is also one of Duzal's kids, her oldest son. And he's targeting his older sister, his direct older sister too. I forgot about that. So it's like, oh my God. The second queen's kids are just literally going after each other's throats like that. It's crazy. So that's Camilla and that's her plan of action. She wants her own mother to take out her own son, her direct brother. But Duzal says herself, like, that's something that you guys should decide amongst yourselves. But again, Camilla's Camilla. She's in her own world. Now, number 14 for the story progression here. Camilla, we see what her intentions are, and she's talking to, second Queen Duzal about that. However, there is a bodyguard of the first prince there, and he's been kicked out of the dining room. He's supposed to not hear what's going on, but he hears full well what's going on. Because the bodyguards of Benjamin, Benny Boy, the first prince, they know how to use Nen. The bodyguard is able to use an ability called Secret Window. So they still have that net advantage. They still do. But it doesn't apply to groups that have hunters. Lo and behold, the first prince bodyguard is spying on these two, and he can hear everything. And so he's going to report this back to Benjamin and Might. And you know that Benjamin, who already was going to go on a rampage to just kill all the princes after talking to Camilla from the king, well, he's going to be, he's going to be even more hell-bent. He's going to target Camilla first, probably, honestly. Don't be surprised if one of the first princes that does get taken out in this war is going to be either Benjamin or Camilla, straight up. So, that is 14 for the story, and now 15 for the story. It looks like Camp Benjamin, again, Benny Boy, just making gains across the field. Camp Benjamin, it looks like they're sending another bodyguard against Camp Wobble, against Kurapika Company. They have come to the conclusion that they now understand, Camp Wobble understands, that they are now in a full-scale war against Camp Benjamin. And as a result, they're trying to still figure out, Camp Benjamin are trying to figure out what abilities Kurapika Company have and how to get that information. And apparently there's another bodyguard that they're going to send, or is going to play some kind of role in trying to get this intel as well. It now looks like their focus group, their target group is Camp Wobble for the time being. Again, after hearing info about Camilla targeting him first, he may just shift gears entirely, say, no, you know what, screw that shit. Wobble will say for later, Camilla, now. Take her out. Let's see how it goes, but for the time being, once again, Camp Wobble in the crosshairs of Camp Benjamin. Now, number 16 is once Kurapika Company returned to Camp Wobble's room, and they have their new bodyguards. Because of the coordination between the first queen and the second queen, it looks like those two bodyguards, Salka and the guy from Benjamin's group, I forgot what his name was, they're going to exchange information between each other more readily. When it comes to the Zhang bodyguards, they're going to keep their eyes on them. Because, again, they're not affiliated with any queen, per se, but they're affiliated with Zhang himself specifically. Their own personal guard. So at some point, given the breakdown that always happens around Camp Wobble, there may be a split in the bodyguards where on one side you have Zhang, his bodyguards that are protecting Kurapika Company because they have a truce, and then you have, let's say, the bodyguards of Benjamin and Duzal on the opposing side and that may lead to some kind of clash later on. Number 17 for story, actually very important because it pertains to Kurapika himself. It is partly for the overall story, but mainly it's for the arc itself. Kurapika, because of the newly added bodyguard from Camp Zhang, Camp Benjamin, and Camp Duzal, he cannot allow Queen Oito to use the ability to capture small creatures just yet via the stuffed dolphin. He can't do that. And as a result, the enforced Emperor time is still active. That means that he's losing more and more and more years of his lifespan. Kurapika now is starting to fully understand just how deadly these conditions are that he placed upon his own Nen. He's already gonna live longer than most people because he's a Nen user, but at the same time, he's still losing years of his life. Now, Bill and Kurapika are going to try and make an opening when they do find a small target for her to use the ability on. But to that point in time, who knows how long it's going to take. It could take a few minutes. It could take, let's say, a few hours. So there's the right time for an opening. Emperor time is still going to be active. And finally, number 18 for the story progression of this chapter, Kurolo Lucifer. Now, we knew that the Phantom Troop were on the boat, obviously, clearly. This man is clearly seething. He is pissed because of Hisoka's actions. Because Hisoka, Hisoka was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But as a result, he's pissed. And some guy talks to him about, well, forget your ties to the other world, the world that we're leaving. We're going to a whole new world. A whole new world. But no. Kurolo says, but those ties were severed, and severed ties cannot be forgotten. Hisoka should be on the ship as well, I believe so, because he's on the hunt. Phantom Troop are on the ship. They're on the Black Whale Mark 1. At least Kurolo is. So Hisoka is probably going to be there too. That didn't lead to some chaos in the lower levels. And will that chaos spread to the upper levels? Not too sure. I doubt it, but potentially it could, because the Phantom Troop's targets are going to be the high-end Kaken people because they have the wealth, they have the treasure that they want, clearly. Let's see how that goes. But right now, Kurolo seething. He's ready to kill somebody. So how that plays out is going to be truly fascinating. And now, the next chapter, we may shift over entirely to Kurolo and what's going on in the lower levels. So, that being said, guys and gals, I'm done. The chapter overall, in honesty, it's a lot. You have 15 parts for pacing. That's way too much. For pacing, that's way too much, honestly. Because, quite literally, each page of the chapter was its own different part. Crazy. And then for the story, you know, honestly, it was just like, dude, like 18 parts. Granted, some of these parts are small, but they're still parts of the story overall. And then other parts are going to have some clear significance to the overall arc. Oh, definitely, absolutely. And then when it comes to the overall story, there's like half of one there. In all honesty, when it comes to story, I'm not a fan of it either. It's just too much stuff in one chapter. Too much stuff. Even if the chapter was a monthly chapter where it had like 40 some odd pages, it was still too much stuff. There's too many parts to break down like that. I mean, shit, I did. Okay, fine. But for the average reader, it's kind of like, are you serious? In the greater scheme of the story, you would think that he's blazing through, but he's not. Because it's only been 4 hours since the damn thing left the docks. 4 hours since the ship left the docks, and it's been like mayhem. Honestly, when it comes to chaptering overall, the chapter is like an okay chapter. There is a balance between having the right amount of pacing, like 4 parts to a chapter, especially with like a weekly chapter. 4 parts to a chapter, 5 parts to a chapter, 6 parts to a chapter. That's fine. 15 parts to a chapter? I'm gonna say it's like an okay, like in all honesty, like a 6 out of 10 for this chapter. So that's my stance on that. I can see why it's a boon, because again, I'm not necessarily against it. I mean, it means that I have to spend more time reviewing the chapter, obviously, but at the same time, look at the negative side as well. So the negative side is clearly there when you have that many parts in one chapter. That's, again, not a monthly chapter. But at the same time, you kind of cover a lot of ground when you go through the process of having that much dialogue like that. 18 different parts when it comes to story progression. Minor parts, most of them, some of them not so minor. Seriously. So you can't really like skimp some of these parts because some of those parts may be crucial later on. But it was like, well, let's say 1 page of focus in the chapter as opposed to like, let's say 4 pages. You know what I'm saying? It has its pluses, it has its minuses. I'm gonna say overall okay chapter and then that's it, we're done. Because it's not bad. It's just a lot. So overall okay chapter, that's it, I'm done. So King Lightning, rate the video, comment, subscribe. Of course, give me your thoughts on the matter at hand. Please do, because there's a lot there. Be sure to rate the video. It is not that hard to do. It is not that hard to do when you have a device called Zmouse. Ooh, you use Zmouse. Ooh, to click, rate the video, to click, subscribe, to click on that bell to join the squad, and of course, comment in the comment section down below using your favorite keyboard. Peace, and have a nice goddamn day.